We throw the word right around every single day. The right to free speech, the right to vote, the right to get paid for our work. But what if I told you that this simple, powerful word is actually one of the most confusing and slippery concepts in all of law? Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to crack that code, take the whole thing apart, and build it back up from scratch. The legal philosopher Ronald Dworkin, he really hit the nail on the head. He said our understanding of these things is remarkably fragile, and that we get into trouble when we try to pin down what they actually are. That fragility, that's exactly what we're here to fix. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the problem itself. Then, we'll dive into this brilliant idea from a jurist named Hohfeldt. We'll break down his 4 key elements, see how they connect, and then figure out why this is way more than just some dusty old academic theory. And finally, we'll be real about its limits. All right, first up, the right problem. Why in the world does this one little word cause so many headaches? Well, here's the core issue, pointed out by the legal scholar RWMDS. In just our normal everyday conversations, we use that single word, right, to talk about 4 totally different ideas: claims, liberties, powers, and immunities. We're basically using one wrench for 4 different kinds of bolts, and yeah, that's going to cause some serious confusion. So, who do we have to thank for sorting out this mess? Let's talk about Hohfeld's big idea. Think of him as the architect who gave us the blueprint for legal clarity. Now, Wesley Newcomb Hohfeld didn't just pull this out of thin air. He was standing on the shoulders of giants. Other jurists like Salmond had already started trying to separate ideas like claims and liberties. But then, in 1913, Hohfeld came along and just took it to a whole new level, creating this beautiful, logical, and comprehensive system that really brought lasting clarity to the whole thing. And his goal? Man, it was ambitious. He wanted to find the absolute lowest common denominators of law. He wasn't trying to figure out what was moral or just. Nope, he was trying to create a super precise analytical tool to expose all the hidden confusion baked into the very language of law. And that brings us to his toolkit, the 4 legal elements. These are the absolute fundamental building blocks you need to understand any legal relationship. Okay, first step is the right. But Hohfeld meant it in a very specific way, as a claim. This is a claim you have against someone else, which means they have a duty to you. The key phrase to remember is you must. If you have a right to be paid, well, your employer has a duty to pay you. That's it. One implies the other. Next, we've got privilege, which you can also call a liberty. Now, this isn't about what somebody else has to do for you. This is about what you are free to do. It's your freedom from someone else's claim. The phrase here is, I may. So you have the liberty to speak your mind, which just means you have no duty to be quiet. Third, there's power, and this one's fascinating. It's your actual ability to change someone else's legal situation. Think of it like a legal superpower. The phrase is, I can. When you sign a contract or write a will, you're using a power to create brand new rights and duties that didn't exist a moment before. And finally, we have immunity. This is your legal shield. It's your protection from someone else using their power against you. The key phrase here is, you cannot. A classic example is a diplomat who has immunity from prosecution. It means the host country simply cannot change their legal status. Okay, so we have these 4 puzzle pieces. But Hohfeld's real genius wasn't just in defining them, it was in showing us exactly how they all snap together. So let's take a look at his blueprint of these legal relationships. This table might look a little intense, but it's the whole system in a nutshell. Hohfeld set up his ideas into pairs of correlatives and opposites. Correlatives are like 2 sides of the same coin. If I have a right, that means you have a duty. They always go together. Opposites are things you can't have at the same time. If you have a privilege to do something, you can't also have a duty not to do it. And you can see that same logic applies to power and liability or immunity and disability. It all fits together. Let's make this crystal clear, because this is where people get tripped up all the time. Confusing a right with a privilege. A right, or a claim, is your right to get paid. That puts a duty on your employer. A privilege, or liberty, is your freedom to quit that job. That means you have no duty to stay. See the difference? One is a demand you place on someone else. The other is your own freedom from a demand. Okay, let's watch how this works in the real world. Say you're renewing your driver's license, and you've ticked all the boxes. Number 1, you have a right to that renewal. Number 2, That right creates a duty for the government clerk to give it to you. And number 3, because the clerk has that duty, it means they have no privilege to say no. See? The whole system just clicks right into place. So why are we going through all this? I know, it can feel a little abstract, but let's talk about thinking like a lawyer and why this is so much more than just an academic exercise. The bottom line is all about one thing: clarity. This framework helps you cut through all the messy language and see what's really going on. It clarifies exactly what legal point is being argued about, which lets everybody focus on what's truly at stake. And when you have that kind of clarity, your chances of reaching a smart, sound conclusion go way, way up. And honestly, this is the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. Dias said it best. One may think Hohfeld without talking Hohfeld. You don't have to walk around using words like jural correlatives. That's not the point. The point is to use this as a mental model, a way to sharpen your own thinking and find clarity. But, like any powerful idea, it's not perfect. It's super important to see this framework as a tool, not as a Bible, and to understand where it has its limits. And there are definitely some real criticisms. Some say the scheme is incomplete, that it has a hard time with ideas in criminal law, where you might have a duty that isn't owed to one specific person. The famous philosopher Joseph Raz argued that Hohfeld was just wrong to think all rights are just a bundle of these 4 things. And tragically, Hohfeld died very young, so he never got the chance to really respond to his critics or evolve his work. So when you pull back, what have we really done here? We've gone from one single fragile word, right, to a precise, powerful toolkit for really understanding our legal relationships with each other. We've taken a concept that was called remarkably fragile and given it a solid analytical backbone. And that brings us to the final question, a question for you. This stuff isn't just for lawyers. Now that you have this toolkit, how are you going to see the world differently? The next time you hear someone talk about the right to privacy or the right to protest, what will you see that you didn't see before?